Good morning. Oh, actually, let me make sure we're going here. All right. Good morning. This is VirtualPBX admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, then we unfortunately no longer do the live trainings for the vConsole. However, you can find the story training still on our website. So, virtualpbx.com, mouse over support, select vConsole support, scroll down about a third of the way, and you should see the link for the various training videos. Up on your screen now, you should be seeing our Dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. If you just signed up or your account was just recently moved over to Dash, you should have had emails that had your login information. Right? So typically, your login information is going to be your email address, a password, and then your account realm or account name, typically your company name. Now, for most people, I recommend just clicking on Remember Me, so that way you don't have to keep typing it in. But if that's not what you do, and you tend to forget, you might forget in the future, you get the forgot info link. If for some reason you didn't get the email with your login information, you can still click the forgot your info link and just put in your email address and your company name, and it should send you a reset email. For those of you who have been moved to Dash from vConsole, the email address that's typically used is your system recovery email address. So your password recovery from vConsole. But let's go ahead and get signed in here. Oh, I must have typoed. All right. So, unfortunately, that means I have to restart the browser here in streaming software. So, pardon me. All right, there we go. Now, this is your typical dashboard. Now, if it's your first time ever logging into Dash, what you're probably going to see instead is something like this, where it's showing your user information, and there'll be a little wizard pop up walking you through things. But basically, here is pretty much where you're probably changing like your time zone for your user, possibly your date and time display. You can also change your email and password as necessary. Under the account information, that's where you want to, if you want to change the time zone for the entire account. Now, this is a test account, so there's some limitations versus a live account. So on your live accounts, you all have a line here and a separate section for some billing information. So that's where you could update your credit card information, for example. But when you're done with that, you can go ahead and click on Close, and we're here on your dashboard. So on the left here, we've got your navigation. These are the primary aspects of Dash that the engineers felt that you're going to want to look at or configured. In the middle here, just a snapshot of your system. These are commonly changed things or things that the system wants you to be aware of. Now, up here at the top, again, you can click on your name to get back to your account information. You've got the little help icon here, so you can initiate chat with support. You can go to the support pages. They'll open up a new tab. This is a web phone link. So I actually, on my user on this account, I have a web phone associated with my user. So this would open up a new tab to make use of the web phone. And then lastly, a link here to our web store, so you can buy a physical VoIP phone. Then we've got the three horizontal line icon here, or the menu icon. And we're on the dashboard here. And then these are some other features, some of which do have fees associated with them, and I'll cover that as we get to them. And then you've got the logout icon. All right, so in the middle, top middle here, we got your total users. So these are all the people on your account who can typically they make and receive calls. Depending on your plan, will determine if adding users will increase your bill. Essentially, if you're on a user plan, then your adding users will increase your bill versus if you're on an unlimited user plan, it won't matter, but then typically the unlimited users plan have minute limits. So keep that in mind. Total devices, all the various devices your staff members use to get calls, right? So this is typically what they use to receive a call on. In the case of VoIP phones, that's also what they'll use to make a call out on. So soft phone, right? Software application runs on a computer, can run on a tablet, can run on a laptop, can run on a mobile phone these days. But basically, it uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. The web phone, which I just previously mentioned, it's a particular type of soft phone. It makes use of Chrome and Firefox to make and receive calls, and actually the most recent version of Edge, which is based off of the Chromium core or whatever, can also use the web phone. And again, so you're using your computer, make and receive calls, you just need a mic and speakers. SIP phone is a type of VoIP phone, right? So VoIP is a general umbrella term, right? Stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. SIP is a subtype of that. These are physical phones that sit on your desk, and these are what we refer to as auto-provisionable phones. So we have phones, you can get phones from Yealink, Cisco, Polycom, a couple other manufacturers. And the idea being is that once you get these phones added on Dash and a slight configuration on the phone itself, the phone then contacts us, gets its config file, and then gets itself set up. And you can make use of a lot of the features that are built into that phone. Landline, pretty self-explanatory. Now the unregistered devices, in red here, marked 30. So these are VoIP devices that the system says, hey, they're not connected to it, meaning the system can't send calls to them. Obviously, we can't get calls back from them either to make an outbound call. That could simply just because, someone didn't plug the phone in right, or like the dog ran by the phone and, took out cables. It could be something more serious like your ISP is having a problem or your network itself is down. Total phone numbers. Plans on Dash include anywhere from 1 to 15 phone numbers as part of your plan price. If you go over that allotment, then you're paying $4.99 per month per phone number. So like on this particular instance, I'm paying a lot of money for these phone numbers. And in this case, I've got assigned numbers. All of them are currently assigned. That means they're all being in use. Now, if I unassign a number, that puts it in what's called spare numbers. I would still be charged for that if I'm over my allotment, but basically they're numbers on my account I'm currently not using, so they're not ringing anything. And then we've got a further breakdown here, USDID versus US toll-free. Right? So toll-free, 800 number, 877, 866, 833, etc. USDID, that just means a local phone number in the United States, right? So a number in Las Vegas, you can have a number in Dallas or in Chicago, etc. You can have international numbers on your account. If you're looking to add an international number, you're going to want to email porting at virtualpbx.com. We'll need to know the city and country that you want the phone number in. If there are additional requirements, our porting team will let you know. Like some countries, like Germany, for example, requires proof of presence. Basically, they need like a utility bill in the city that you want a phone number in. Other countries don't care. They say, okay, here's a number. Just depends. Conference bridges, just the number of users you have allocated to have conferencing. All right, main numbers. So all of these numbers These are your general contact numbers, right? So your typical advertising, these are numbers that you are advertising on, like web pages or newspapers or what have you. These numbers all behave the same way, meaning they'll have the same routing. If you have a greeting associated with that routing, then that greeting is going to play on all of those numbers. Your conference numbers, you can have multiple conference numbers. Basically, these are the numbers people call in to get to one of those 5 conference bridges. So you can have a conference. Next up, you got your fax box number. You can have one fax box number. This is so you can receive faxes. It also conveniently means enables you to do outbound faxing. And in terms of outbound, actually we'll get to that shortly here. Company directory download link basically shows all your extensions and users on the account, so you can print that out and send it to everyone. The soft phone directory, this is specific to our desktop soft phone, right? So VPBX phone app on either Windows or Mac OS. You can download this, and it's going to add all your users as contacts within the soft phone app, so you can easily call them. You've got the store discount code, so just by being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our online store. And then you have the account realm. So this realm is used in a couple things. First, it's used in programming a third-party device. So say you like a soft phone application from someone other than us. You would use part of the realm as part of the setup for that application. Likewise, if you have a VoIP phone that doesn't show up as on the auto provision list, you would use the realm to help program that phone. The other thing that the realm is used for is for outbound faxing. So on Dash, outbound faxing is actually an email to fax. So you create an email. In the to field of that email, you put +1 and then the area code and phone number of the number you're faxing to, right, the destination number. Put the @ symbol, and then you put your account realm. And then you attach a PDF or a TIFF file and send it off. So one attachment per email. So if you don't want to add like multiple documents as individual attachments and try to get them all out because the system's just going to choose one of them and send it out. If your email application adds a signature file, you want to make sure to disable that or remove it before you send out, because that can also cause a problem. The largest file I've been able to fax out was 7 megabytes. That also took like an hour for that to get through. So that timing will vary depending on your file size, but also on how busy the system happens to be at that time. All right, so caller ID, this is associated with your main numbers. Now, unfortunately, my streaming software here doesn't always show everything in the drop-downs, but you can choose any of your main numbers here. This first field here is your company caller ID name, or CNAME. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. That's industry standard. But you can type in here basically additional caller ID information to send out when you make an outbound call. So when you click Save Changes, that information gets sent to all the carriers who support CNAME, not just us. That can take up to 3 business days for that to complete, because we don't control all those servers. They do it on their own time. Something to keep in mind is not every carrier that calls route through supports CNAME. We'd like to make them do that, but we can't. It's their choice. So what that means is if your call happens to route through one of those carriers, your CNAME information will not go through. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not a high priority for them. Right? Telecom, first priority, connect the call. Secondarily, shoot the caller ID number. And then in distant third, the CNAME information. So if they have heavier than expected call volume, the CNAME information may drop out because they want to make sure the call is getting connected. Obviously, if there's some sort of outage or big maintenance issue that's going on, that can also impact that. Next up, we got the company emergency information, or E911. Basically, this is typically, you want to have the address for your company HQ, generally speaking, or your main location. you can set up E911 for additional for different phone numbers or even for your specific VoIP devices. But when you're done here, you just click Save Changes. And then you're all set. Right. Hold music. So on Dash, hold music is basically a call comes in and gets to one of your users, one of your staff members. They pick up, they talk to the customer, then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's where this hold music comes into play, right? So this is the default hold music for your account. Now, there's a default music file here, but you can upload your own file. And you can just browse on your computer, and you would click Upload. Now, Dash accepts .wav and .mp3 files under 1 megabyte currently. We recommend that you record in mono, not in stereo. One, that gives you more data, so you can have a longer file. But basically, a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, hours is actually part of the main number section, so I'm just going to go to the main number itself. Right, so up here, first we got your main company numbers. Right, so these are all the numbers that behave the same way. These are your general contact numbers versus like a number specific to your sales team. The big unassigned here, this means you could remove it from being a main number. So I can do that to here. This is 866 number, and now, oh, no longer assigned. Now, that number is not deleted. It's still on my account. I can still use it. It's going to be a spare number. Now, for instance, anywhere you want to add a number, so like as a main number, the fax box, on a user specifically, on one of your ring groups, etc., you always have an option to either add some spare numbers or to buy numbers. Right? And so under buy numbers, you have local or toll free. Toll free, you just look for the prefix, do search. There's nothing there, which the 833 is the newest one, so not completely shocked that there's nothing there yet. But here you see the available numbers. Got a couple in sequence there. But you would just click add for the number you want. It gets added to your cart right down here. And you can add multiple at once if you want to. But then you would just click buy numbers. The system's checking to make sure the number was still available. And if it's verified, it says yes. Here we go. And now it's added directly to my main numbers. Now, the little gear icon next to each number, this is where you can set up the caller ID for each individual number. And you can also set up the E911. Prepend is for VoIP devices. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that will show up on your VoIP phone. Right? So this will let your staff know, oh, this is about, this particular promotion we're running versus our normal main number kind of thing. Office hours strategy, you can be 24-hour open office, meaning, hey, 24/7, you're open to take calls. Right? That's actually how the default for new accounts comes up as. Or you can go custom office hours, and you put a check mark in front of each day of the week that you're open. And then in the boxes here to the right, you put your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have this option down here at the bottom. Say, hey, I'm closed for lunch, meaning your whole facility is closed for lunchtime. And then you can enter in your lunch hours here, again, in 24-hour and military time. All right, office holidays. If you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark. And then you click Add Holiday. You got single day, date, range, and advance. So, single day, hey, we're just closed for one particular day, like many of us were closed on Monday. So you would give it a name. So we'll say like President's Day is here. You select the month, the day, and then you would click Save Changes. Right, so date range, that's like what we have here for Christmas. Right, starts on December 23rd, ends on December 26th. We're going to be automatically closed and go into holiday mode. And then the advanced is something like this. Here is the third Wednesday in September. The system will automatically put us in holiday mode. All right, so now we go to incoming call handling. Notice here I've got my open hours and I have a holidays section, but they both have the same basic options. So, and then this is for your main numbers. So calls are coming in, and this option here, going to the virtual receptionist, this is a link. Opens up. On my left, this is your main menu, right? So this is what people press on their phone to navigate through your system. On your right is where you handle your greetings. Basically, thank you for calling, and then you're giving them direction in terms of how to get to the right people. To add options, you just click on Add Route. Fortunately, my pull downs aren't working here, but you pick 0 through 9, and then you pick where they want to go, where you want to go. So here, I'll go up here. Now, you can, I have a long list because there's all sorts of things. Okay, Smart Directory goes to your company directory. Users, you can have go to a specific person. Call queues, this is if you're making use of ACD queues or ACD queues Pro. Both of those are add-ons that have, basically there's additional costs for adding queues or queues Pro. Devices, you can send it to a specific device. You can send it to a specific media file, so just play another greeting. The downside of that is once that file ends, then the call ends. You can send it to groups. So groups are like a department. ACD queues and ACD queues Pro are advanced versions of groups. So groups are included, right? There's no additional fee for groups. If that's not meeting your needs, then you might need to look at queues, in which case there's an additional fee per queue. Voicemail boxes, basically send it straight to a voicemail box. That's it. And you see here it changes the icon. And so I can go back and say, oh, I don't really want that one to go to a voicemail box. Let me send it to John, right? Little person. Basic group has 3 little people icon, and a queue has got the little headset. All right, now your greetings, you got text to speech. You type it, you click update, you click save, and then save changes, and it's good. It's going. It's essentially a computerized robotic voice. You can upload your own file. Again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. You can choose from any recordings you already have on the system. So, for instance, you have your normal greeting that you play most of the time, but then, oh, holidays, you know, or I'll have a holiday schedule for your open hours. You can flip it back and forth as you need it. Recorded over the phone. Now, this is by default going to go to a VoIP phone that's on the account. And then you'd call your main number from that VoIP phone, you'd enter in the PIN number, and then it'll prompt you through recording your greeting. Now, if you already have a greeting in place, right, so greeting A plays, you can still call in to record a new greeting, right? So the greeting A is playing, you hit enter the PIN number, and then the system will prompt you to recording the greeting. Just keep in mind is that the recording that you make right then replaces the content on greeting A. So the greeting A file name stays the same, it's just the content is you're overwriting it with your new recording. So that's something to keep in mind. We also have partnered with another company called Snap Recordings for professional recording services. When you click on order, it'll take you to their site. You've got like 100 voice actors to choose from for both men and women. You've got various versions of English. I believe they have a couple versions of Spanish and French as well. So you can do multilingual greetings. They also have hold treatment, right? So music file in a script, music file in a script, that sort of thing. They handle their own pricing, right? They bill you directly. They'll usually email you the file so then you can just upload it through Dash. They also have expedited processing, so you can get it pretty quickly too. All right, and then settings, number of retries on misdial. Basically, your inbound caller calls in, and for whatever reason, they keep pressing 7. After that second time, in this particular case, the system will end the call after that second attempt. Now, you can set up a default route under the main menu, meaning after that second retry, the system will then send the caller to the default route. We don't typically recommend the default route anymore because of robodialers, because they'll just hang out until your retries end, and then they'll go to your default route. Usually it's a voicemail, so then it takes up minutes off of your plan. And as mentioned, annoying whoever's handling that voicemail box. Now, any changes you make in the virtual receptionist, main menu, greetings, both, even the settings, click Save. But you also need to click Save Changes here. All right. Now, this middle option here is call comes in. We're offering it to Bob. Yeah. And if Bob is able to pick up, it goes to virtual reception, right? So the idea behind this option is you giving a staff member or multiple staff members a chance to answer the call first, and then you send the caller to your virtual receptionist. This virtual receptionist will have the same main greeting as we had over here, and the same menu options, right? It's the same virtual receptionist. But again, you can choose the person, you can choose ring groups, you can choose queues, etc. But the main idea here is you're giving someone a chance to answer the call first among your staff, and if they can't, then it goes to the reception, to the virtual receptionist. All right. Option 3, call comes in. Again, we're offering it to Bob. Bob's not able to pick up, and then it goes to voicemail. Right, so there's no virtual receptionist involved in this. You can offer it to a group. You can also, at the very bottom here, just say, hey, just go straight to voicemail. So you're like on limited staffing. You're like, hey, this call goes to voicemail. We'll call you back as soon as we can. That sort of thing. All right, so now your holiday menu, same options. Just one thing to keep in mind is that this virtual receptionist is completely different, right? You can set them up to be completely different from each other. You can make them the exact same. That's purely up to you. But again, they can have their own greetings, their own menu options, etc. And that would also apply to say if you're closed for lunch or if you had after hours. Again, all of them would be different from each other. And one thing to keep in mind is for the record over the phone, that is specific to the time of the menu, right? So I'm in the holiday menu right now, or the holiday hours. So the record over the phone, why didn't that? That's weird. There you go. Record over the phone, that PIN number is specific to this time, right? So the PIN number for your open hours is specific to open hours, and the PIN number for holiday hours is specific to holiday hours. Likewise, like if we're open for business and I want to record the holiday greeting, I can't call in because the system's saying, hey, you're in open hours, you can only record your open hours greeting. So you'd have to put the system into holiday mode to record it over the phone for the holiday. All right, main conference numbers, again, this is where you can add or remove conference numbers. Here you've got the custom greeting. It's a text-to-speech greeting, so you just type in what you want the system to say. And the system will prompt the inbound caller to enter the conference room number that they want to associate with. Again, you can add from spare or by numbers here. And you can also unassign a number if you're not going to use it. Your main fax box number, you can have one fax box number, and then you can edit your fax box. Now, on this system, it doesn't show up properly. On your system, when you click the edit fax box, you'll have two fields. The first field is who's receiving the faxes, right? So you put in an email address. That email address is going to receive all your inbound faxes as a PDF. The second field is if you own your own domain, you can add that domain, and anyone with that email domain can send a fax out, right? If you don't want that, you only want the one person to send a be able to send faxes, then you can put that individual email address there as well. All right, numbers. Shows all your numbers on the account. Again, you can get the little gear icon on any of the numbers and update caller ID, E911, etc. Your spare numbers, these are numbers that you're not using right now. If you want to get rid of one, you would just put a little check mark in front of the number. That's the option here to delete. You click delete numbers. It's going to verify that yes, number was deleted, and now the number's not on your account, so you're no longer being charged for it. You can buy numbers here. Again, any number you buy here, it's just going to go in your spare number field, meaning you can assign it later to wherever you need it to go. You also have the port option here. You would just basically follow the on-screen instructions, but essentially what we need for the port request is a completed letter of agency, or LOA, and a recent copy of your bill. And this is just to move a phone number to VirtualPBX, right? So from AT&T to VirtualPBX, that's what porting means. Likewise, if you're leaving VirtualPBX or you want to move a number away from us, that you'd be porting it to AT&T from or something like that. But so if you're moving a number to us, you're porting it. The LOA, one, it's available. You can download a blank one through that port process. It's also on our website to download. It needs the company information it asks for, like the company name and the address. That should match what your current carrier has on file for that number, right? So say with VirtualPBX, your ABC cleaners, but with AT&T, your XYZ cleaners. The LOA should have the XYZ cleaners as the company name and that address. The LOA does require a signature. It can be a digital signature. It simply just can't be printed or typed out. Those just get rejected right off the bat. If you are porting a mobile number, right? So like a T-Mobile phone number from your cell phone, a couple things to keep in mind. One, most mobile carriers will require what's called an account PIN number to port out. And that's something you typically have to call them to get. You're going to want to include that on the LOA. There's a little space for it there. And then the other thing to keep in mind is when you port that number, when that port completes, your cell phone won't work anymore because it doesn't have a phone number associated with it. Obviously, if you want to keep using that cell phone, you're going to want to contact your mobile carrier to make sure you have another number to replace the one you're porting to us. And generally speaking, we also need a copy of your bill, just a scanned copy. Now, if for some reason you don't want to use the online port process, you can just email both documents, so a completed LOA and your copy of your bill, to porting@virtualpbx.com. That works just as well. We still process the port. And then we email you, basically saying, hey, we got your documents, and then as we get updates from the other carrier. And that's the one thing to keep in mind is that your current carrier controls that process, right? They let us know when they're going to release it. They'll let us know if there's any problem, and but they're not going to give us specifics about the problem. Like if you got the address wrong on the LOA, right? They'll just say address zip code mismatch. They won't tell us that, oh, it's the wrong actual street address or it's the wrong zip code. No, they'll just say, hey, it's wrong. And then you'll have to contact your carrier to find out what the right information should be. Or if it's actually right, you can ask them for what's called a customer service record or CSR. You can email that to us and we can say, hey, we're going to dispute this rejection because here's the CSR. That sort of thing. All right, users. This is where you add people to your account. Click add user up here at the top. Put their name in here. The email address used to log in, that's unique to each user. Right, so each user has to have their own. And then you create a password for them. Here you got the extension number. Now on this account, I started with extension 1000. And so the system's saying, hey, the next available one in that series is 1027. I don't have to use it. I can make this, 5410. Still a valid extension as far as the system is concerned. Now by default, this is checked here. Create a voicemail box for the user, meaning that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to that user. The other one I say you want to make sure you do is this bottom one here. Right, send credentials to the user, so that way the person has their login information. I actually put in a feature request to our dev team to say, hey, make this one default. Now, number 2 here, include user in the company directory. So they show up in that directory download link on the dashboard page. And then you also have to send emails to alternate address. So this would be in addition to the email address used for login, right? So by default, like when a user gets a voicemail, the email address used for login gets an email saying, hey, you got a voicemail, and it has an attachment in it with the voicemail, for example. So this would be like if you want to send it to a secondary address for that person, like the personal email address or something like that. And then you either hit create user, if that's the only one you need to create, or create user and add another if you have more people to create. Now, when a person's added, they look kind of like this with Bob, in that their little gray person icon. To click on their name, you can always change their name. If you change credentials, right, you can change their email address, you can change their password. But as an admin, you've got this little link right here. You can send the password reset email to the user instead of just creating a new password for them every time. You have the option here to send to an alternate address again. And then here's the option to put in the company directory or not. This is actually a pull down where it says user, where you can make a user into an admin or vice versa. Time zone, right, company default, you can select the specific time zone. Language, English, French, German, and Russian are the options. The ringing timeout measured in seconds. This is the default amount of time that the system will ring the devices on this user, right? So basically, he's got one device. So when a call comes to Bob, it's going to ring his device for 45 seconds. The actual default on a new user is 20 seconds, which is fine for VoIP phones and landlines. If you have someone who's using cell phones, you are going to want to put it to like 45 seconds to 60 seconds. And that's because it simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone, right? Because every time a call comes to your cell phone, your carrier has to find you first. Your main extension, this is also typically your voicemail box number, and then the company privacy. Oops. Right, so little blue third person, this means they're just an admin, meaning they can do everything on the account that we're going over. If you click on the extension box, you can add additional extensions to a user. The main use I've seen is actually among our sales team. So if we lose a salesperson for whatever reason, our VP of sales just takes over their extension. So that way, any incoming calls will go to him, as well as any voicemails. So that way, he can make sure that the potential customers are handled. And he usually divvies them up to other sales staff. Phone numbers, users can have their own phone numbers. They can have multiple. You can add some spare or by numbers. And then we have devices. So you have all the devices here. If I don't want to use a device, I can unassign it. Or I can add new devices or add some spare. So new devices, SIP phone. Again, this is the physical VoIP phone that's on your desk. These are the manufacturers that have models that support that auto provisioning. So you click on the manufacturer you have, and then you look for the model of phone. And then you give it a name, and then you put in the MAC address. The MAC address is typically found as a sticker on the back of the phone. It can also be on the box that the phone came in. You would click on Create Device, and then you would click on Save Changes on the user. As far as Dash is concerned, you're done. In reality, you have to go into the phone's web UI. You need to add a URL under the auto provisioning section, basically telling the phone, hey, go to this address. The phone does, communicates with the server to get the config file. The phone will reboot a couple times, and then it's good to go. The specific instructions are on our website. It's under Dash Support, under Auto Provisioning Phone. All right, next up, cell phone. Cell phone and landline are basically the same. You give it a name, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then you click on Create Device, and then you click on Save Changes. All right. Now, by default, this is how a new cell phone landline looks on the system. When Dash offers a call to you on a cell phone or landline, what happens is your phone will ring, you pick up, you're going to hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1, right? When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you're ready to take the call. So then it connects the call to you. That doesn't work for everybody. They don't want to press 1, or what's fairly common is people are actually using this to send callers to an automated answering service, right? Well, that automated answering service can't press 1. So what you would do, let's put a check mark here, if it'll allow you to use the cell phone's voicemail or landline's voicemail. So what that does is we offer the call to that device, and we hear that pickup tone, and we connect the call, right? There's no message saying, please press 1. So when it goes to an automated answering service, your answering service picks up, we connect the call, the answering service handles it from that point on. Now, if this is actually going to your cell phone and you have this checked, that means that inbound caller can end up on your cell phone's voicemail, not on the Dash voicemail. Some people love it, some people hate it. Purely up to you. Now, the other thing here that often gets changed is this one here, keep original caller ID. So when calls are being sent to your cell phone, and this is and the default method, right? So the check mark in front of keep original caller ID, what shows up on your cell phone is the phone number of the person who's calling you, right? Typical, standard. If you uncheck it, then what shows up on your phone instead is the VirtualPBX phone number, right? So whatever, like they called in on the main number, or on the number on your user, or whatever. Basically a phone number on your Dash account shows up on your cell phone caller ID display. So it's a way to let you know, oh, this is a work call versus a random telemarketer. Soft phone, little warning message here, which we do encourage you to read. Now, by default, you're set up as, or it starts off as a third-party application, meaning you're going to use, say, Xlite from Counterpath. So you would give it a name, and then you would click Create Device and Save Changes. You would use the SIP username here and the SIP password in your account realm to program that application or that wait phone that didn't show up on the auto provision list. Now, if you want to use the VirtualPBX app, then you want to click down here where it says Use Third-Party Application, and it's grayed out. You click that, it flips it to use VirtualPBX application. You give it a device name, you click Create Device, you click Save Changes. When you click Save Changes, the system will then email that user their login information for the VirtualPBX phone app. And then they can just download it to their Android or iPhone. Now, if you want to use the desktop version of the app, there is a license fee associated with that. So you'd want to actually go to the online store and order the desktop version, so Windows or Mac OS. So that way you'll get the download links for that. And so for the virtual PBX cell phone app, you want to add it on the user directly. It's a lot easier. Landline. Oh, and web phone, again, this is something you want to do directly on the user. But basically, it's you give it a name, you click create device, you click save changes. The web phone uses the same information, the same login information as your Dash login, right? So your email address, the same password, the same account realm, and you would just put that in on the Dash login page, or the web phone login page, webphone.virtualpbx.net. User features. Caller ID number, this only applies to users that have their own phone number. And basically, when you turn it on, you're saying, use this phone number for their outbound caller ID. And then you would click on Save Changes. Call forwarding, this is saying, so you got off, you got failover mode, and on. So if you're, but basically call forwarding is, hey, when calls are coming to my user, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. So instead, send it to this alternate device. Right? Now, so when you just say turn it on, you're just saying, hey, send it to my mobile. Here's that number. Click Save Changes. And your users can set this up themselves. You don't have to set up call forwarding for them. They can either do it through the user portal, or if they have VoIP phones, they can do it over the VoIP phone using a feature code. Also, for VoIP phone users, you have failover mode, meaning the system detects, hey, your VoIP phone is no longer registered, and a call happens to come into your user at that time, the system will automatically send it to this device that you're forwarding it to, or this phone number. Hot desking, this is a VoIP phone feature. More specifically, this is for if you're in an office environment where people may be changing desks from day to day, right? So on Tuesday, I'm sitting at desk number 7, at phone number 7. I can log into that phone with hot desking. Basically, I set up a hot desk ID number. I can decide, as an admin, you can set up if they want a PIN or not. So you would click Save Changes. So from the desk I'm sitting at, I pick up the handset at that phone. I hit *11. That turns on hot desking for that phone. It's going to ask me for my hot desk ID number, and then it'll ask me for a PIN if the admin required that, and then it'll say calls will come to the phone now. Right. So any call who's trying to reach my user comes to that desk, that phone number 7. At the end of my day, I pick up the phone. I hit *12. That turns off hot desking. Wednesday comes around. I come into the office. Someone's already at desk number 7. I'm like, whatever. I just scroll over. Oh, hey, desk 42 is open. I sit down there. Again, pick up the phone, hit *11, hot desk ID, and now calls to my user go to that phone that I'm sitting in. Voicemail. Again, every user has voicemail by default. Users can have their own fax box. In general, I recommend using a phone number, so that way the person just enters the fax number and sends it. If you choose to use a new extension number, then the person who's faxing in needs to call your main number, and then when the greeting plays, enter that fax extension, and then click Send Fax or Start Fax on their fax machine. And I have no idea how well that works, but it's an e-fax service. Conference Bridge. Right, so when you enable it, it says, hey, here's your conference numbers, your conference room number, and then your conference PIN to enter it. Right, and then up to you how many users you want to have conferencing. These are basically, if you have Conference Bridge, these are the people who can host a conference. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. You would click Enable, and then you choose which devices that they're going to be using. Up here is your total ring duration, which is defaults to 120 seconds. Now you can click Distribute, and now you're going to ring these devices in order. You can also rotate them around, click and drag them. You hit Distribute again, so now I'm doing it in this order. These are sliders, So I can also do something like this. So now all my devices are ringing for the entire time. That's referred to as blast ringing. And then you click Save Changes. Music on hold. Users can have separate hold music if you want them to. You would click Enable, and then either select the file or upload the file. Again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, and under 1 megabyte. Customized call recording. Actually, let me go ahead and disable this here first. We'll get it back to how it looks when you first enable it. All right, enabled. So if I just click enabled and save changes, I haven't really done anything because the default is off. So inbound internal means my coworker Bob called me. Right? Inbound external means my customer called me. Likewise, outbound internal means I called Bob. We're talking fantasy football, for instance. And then outbound external means I'm calling a customer back. So for any of these that you want to be recorded, you would just click on. So something like that, for example, you can click call for, and you just click save changes, and now you're recording calls, at least among those options. And then lastly, you got do not disturb, saying, hey, send callers to voicemail. All right, groups, shorthand for ring groups. Again, you're not charged for ring groups. You give it a name, you give it an extension number, and then you click and drag everyone you want to be in that group. And then you click on create group. Once they're there, they show up as a new row. If you click on the group name, you can change the name. You've got dialing repeats here, little arrows. Basically, you're saying how many times can that inbound caller ring through to everyone in the group. You also have the option to delete the group. If you click on the members box, you can see all the people in the group. You've got your default ring duration again, it's 120 seconds, 2 minutes. Again, you can click distribute, so it goes in sequence. Right? You can click and drag people around, like redistribute. And again, there's a slider, so you can have people go through the whole thing and blast them all, etc. Extension. A group can have multiple extension numbers. And basically, that's for your other staff members to transfer calls to the group. Groups can also have a phone number or multiple phone numbers. So they can have a number and an extension. Queues by default can only have either, right? Either a phone number or an extension. They can't have both. It's one of the advantages of a group. The other advantage of groups is that the people in the group, they can answer calls on with a cell phone or a landline. Queues requires a VoIP device. Group features ringback. Basically, if you enable it, you can have a media file play while the inbound caller is waiting for someone to pick up. Obviously, when your staff member picks up, that file stops playing. The main thing to remember is you want that file to be as long as your ring duration of the group. So default 120 seconds, so 2 minutes, because the system will not automatically loop your media file. And again, you can upload .wav, .mp3, under 1 megabyte, recorded in mono. Next action, if no one is able to pick up, right, you enable it, what do you want the system to do with call? In this case, I'm sending it to Bob's voicemail box, but you can send it to a specific user. You can send it to another group. You can send it to, specific devices. You can also send it back to the virtual reception, the main menu. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding, meaning they're sending calls to a device that they're normally not at. And then caller ID prepend. This is again for your VoIP phone users. You can add text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on the phone. This is helpful for users that are in multiple groups, so that way they know, oh, this call is about billing versus support issue. devices shows all the devices on the account. You can add devices here, right? You got the same options as if under the user. The only caveat I say again is for the VirtualPBX soft phone or the web phone, you want to do those directly on the user, but anything else you can add here and then assign to the user after the fact. Green means the phone is connected, meaning we can send calls to it. Red means it's not connected, meaning we can't send calls to it. And black means we've disabled the phone. And again, you can turn it back on and it'll turn green. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. The ones with names in this column means they were created at the same time the user was. You can create your own voicemail boxes. Just give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. And you would do that for like for your ring groups, if you want a specific voicemail box for them. Once they're created, click on the icon. You can adjust the basic information, but under advanced, greeting media, you can upload a file. Again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono. You can record over the phone once you've got the PIN number associated with it in the voicemail box. You just have to call into your main number and hit *97, and then it'll prompt you for the voicemail box number and the PIN number. The other thing you want to do is add recipients for any created voicemail box. That way someone knows, hey, this is getting voicemail. Once you've done those two things, then under options, you'd want to put a check mark in front of already set up, because that means the voicemail box is ready to go. And then the other thing you might consider is this one right here, delete after notification. So by default, the system will send out an email out to any recipients on the voicemail box. And in that email, they'll have an attachment to listen to the media file. Now, voicemail boxes are restricted to 100 messages. Once they get to 100, the inbound caller gets a message saying voicemail box is full, try again later. So if you have delete after notification, you don't have to worry about it, because once that email goes out, then that voicemail in the system is deleted. Voicemail box is not going to get full. Now, you can also check your voicemail through the system. So if that's what people are used to doing, like going through a website or whatnot, or calling in all the time, then you don't want delete after notification, because then they're never going to have voicemail. By the time they look for it, there's nothing there. And then you tell them, hey, go look at your email. All right, greetings, or the greetings manager, shows all the greetings on the account. Got the name. The source is either recording, TTS, means text-to-speech, or upload. You can download the individual file. That way you can listen to it. Little wrench icon. You can change the name or delete the file. Call logs basically shows you the call activity on the system. The little green arrow to the right means it's an incoming call. And you can click on it for additional information, basically saying, hey, I went to this particular device. We'll see if there's more than this one. Yeah. And then if you have the little orange arrow going to the left, that means it's an outbound call. The little fire hydrant icon here, it creates an email, which will have the technical details. Just if you do use that, please indicate what happened, at least from your perspective. Like, this says a call came to me, but my phone number for a ring. That sort of information gives us the support team more context about what's happening. Also, if you click on a call, you can click on a gear next to it, and that'll give more technical details. And then under the custom, you can enter a date range to get, and then download that file. Downloads into .csv. Feature codes. These are codes you can use typically from VoIP phones, right? So you've got the call center, which is for the ACD queues to log in, call forwarding, so update it or enable and disable your hot desking, etc. The The star 97 here, check voicemail, that can be used from any phone. You just have to call in to your main number to do so. Whereas the check voicemail, the auto login star 98, that's typically from a VoIP phone on the system. So we've been on dashboard here. Over here, we've got ACD queues. So ACD stands for automatic call distribution. It's a call center feature. Again, it's a more powerful or more options, I guess, than the ring groups. You can add a new queue. So let's click on the little gear icon here for an existing one. Give it a name. Now, again, a queue can only have a phone number or an extension number. Now, they can still be a menu option under your virtual reception. This is just alternative to that. Call routing strategy, there are 5 by default. Unfortunately, the pull down is not working. So most idle means who's been waiting for call the longest. It gets the next call that comes in. There's round robin, which is saying it's going to equalize the calls among the users over time. Most offers, or I'm sorry, least offers. Basically, whoever's going to have the least amount of calls offered to them gets the next call in, right? So Mary's been offered 5 calls, Bob's been offered 20, Mary gets the next call that comes in. Least calls means the least amount of connected calls, right? So Mary's spoken to 5 people, Bob has only spoken to 2. Next call that comes in goes to Bob. And then there's an option for blast, meaning everyone gets rung all the time for every call that comes in, unless they're already on a call. Hold treatment, you can upload your own file, again, .wave.mp3. Now, on the ACD Queues Pro, the hold treatment is a little different in that you can announce the wait time, their position. You can have different media file plays. So, like, you can go, media file play, announce the hold time, media file play, announce the wait, media file play. Or you can have the same media file play all 3 times, up to you. Queue timeout, basically how much time each person waiting on hold can stay on hold. Queue call limit, basically limits the number of people who can be in the queue at any given time. 0 means no limit. Escalation queue, obviously means you have to have a second queue, but basically your staff members weren't able to answer the call, send the call to this escalation queue, or the queue was empty. Right? Timeout, if empty, means none of your agents are logged in. I think I might skip that. Sorry about that. And then escalation call for after timeout, basically send it to a voicemail box. All right. Agent behavior, agent recovery time. Basically, after they're done with the call, this is measured in seconds. Basically, how much time before the system offers them another queue call. Typically, this is in the range of 10 to 30 seconds, not 300. Force away on reject or missed means if an agent misses a call, the system will automatically put them in away mode, and they have to go in and make sure they're marked ready to take calls again. And then the agent connect timeout is how much time we're trying to send a call to a user, right? So a call comes in the queue, we offer it to that agent for 20 seconds. If they don't pick up, then it goes to the next agent. And then you click on Save Changes. So for your agents, they would still have an option here to get queues. And then they would begin their section. That's to log in. They can select their VoIP devices, or just select them all. And then they can make themselves ready. Meaning, hey, I can take a call. And you see here, some of these, now I have one and a couple of these queues. Now, the little person with the headset, that's your members section. You click manage members. On the left, these are users on your account. On the right are people you've moved over to be available for your queues. Right? So these 3 people right now can't take calls in queues, whereas these people can. Once they're in this on this right-hand side, then you can go back to the queues. And then you can add agents or managers if they're a manager of the queue. But then that's a matter of, hey, just click and drag them over. And click on Save Changes. All right, blacklists. This allows you to create a list to block members from reaching your system. Right, so you start by clicking Edit Blacklist. Most of you will click on Add to add a new list. But basically, what it shows up is you give it a name. Now, block anonymous means if the system doesn't get valid caller ID, and you turn this on, that means the system will block them. They'll just get a busy signal. Beyond that, you just add a number. You put +1 area code and phone number. Click Add to add more numbers. Otherwise, you click Save. And you go back to Settings. And so it'll look something like this, where they're all on the available side. You want to move it over into Selected, and then click Update. So now that list is the one in the Selected. That's the list that's in use. And any numbers that are on that list, when they try to call into your system, they just get a busy signal. Faxes, this is the fax manager. So all admins can get to the fax manager, which means you can see all the inbound or outbound faxes. Again, this is a test system, so I'm not expecting a whole lot. And then you can also see the email to fax logs to see if there's any errors. The monitor basically shows status of your people. Green means they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away. Typically, that's for queues. Yellow is they're on recovery time. Again, from queues. And then there's a gold color, which means they're on an external call. Usually means they're on an outbound. You also have an option here to look at available and then busy. The recording manager takes you to the recording manager site, which is hosted by AWS, and that uses your same login information as your Dash login. Reports, as far as I know, that's still in beta. And again, as far as I know, this is actually an advanced version of the call log that is supposed to have a fee associated with it. User portal, every person has their own user portal. Voicemails, if you do not have delete after notification enabled, then their voicemails will show up here so they can play them back, download them, delete them, etc. Call history shows you their call history. Faxes, their fax. Contact list shows all your Dash information, right? So everyone's users, the various extension numbers associated with groups, etc. This cannot be uploaded to, right? So like your individual staff members can't put in their own personal contacts here. This is just within the Dash account. The conference tab, this is how your users would basically monitor or manage their own conferences. Here you can then invite other Dash users into a particular conference. You can lock a conference. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the conference. When you're in an actual conference here, in participants, you can mute a specific person. You can also kick specific people from a conference. The settings on devices, this is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. Right, they would just click enable and they enter the +1 area code and phone number. And then they would click save, and they can also view the status of their devices. Voicemails, this is the voicemail manager. So like the fax manager, you can check the various voicemail boxes to see what their status is. Storage means you have it connected to something else. And then lastly, there's webhooks, which is making use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in that, you're going to want to contact our sales team. They have additional information in terms of costs, as well as some guidelines and like white papers on how to help you program everything. Okay, I'll go back to dashboard. So that is everything on Dash. I'll hang out for a minute or two to see if anyone has questions via chat. Beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a great day. All right, I don't see any questions popping up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.